This is an NBC News Special Report. Here is Brian Williams.
And good day from our headquarters in New York. We're coming on the air at this hour with news from Vatican City that the condition of Pope John Paul II has apparently worsened in the past several hours. The Pope is reported to be spiking a high fever right now, and according to his spokesman at the Vatican, it is because of a urinary tract infection. This was his last appearance in Vatican City, St. Peter's Square, just prior to the insertion of a feeding tube down his nose, the obvious effects present of both Parkinson's disease and the Pope's recent tracheotomy. He was unable to speak the last time he appeared at the window. NBC News correspondent Keith Miller, who has covered the Pope for many, many years for us, is standing by for us in Rome tonight. And Keith, what have the stirrings been there?
Well, Brian, we are in yet another health crisis regarding the Pope. Word spreading throughout the Rome and the Vatican here that the Pope is in very, very serious condition. We're not sure exactly what's going on with his health, although you mentioned, of course, apparently a very high fever, low blood pressure, and the Vatican spokesman is attributing that to a urinary tract infection, but that is something entirely new, at least on the radar of the Pope's current health condition problems. We are expecting an announcement from the Vatican, some sort of update, because the rumors have gone all the way to the end here regarding his health and what's actually happened now. If it's true about the urinary tract infection, one more indication of the Pope's failing health. The last 2 months have been very difficult for him. He's been in the hospital twice now. First time went in February 1st with the flu and breathing difficulties. He was rushed back to the hospital in an emergency situation to relieve what they called acute breathing difficulties. That was when he had the tracheotomy that you mentioned just a moment ago. And that has caused a problem for him ever since. He's tried twice now to make public appearances and have some sort of speech, some sort of message to the faithful, unable to utter any sort of word. Some people say he looks a little better, a little frail. All of this is guesswork. Clearly, he is in very poor health, and we've had a dramatic turn for the worse tonight here, Brian. And now we're standing by waiting for an update from the Vatican.
Okay, Keith Miller in Rome tonight. Thank you for that. All of it, all of those symptoms and ailments that Keith went through, complicated by the presence, again, of Parkinson's disease. NBC News Chief Science Correspondent Robert Bazell also with us from our studios here in New York. And Bob, the feeding tube matter, which we discussed in detail on NBC Nightly News last night, inserted through the nose to allow for caloric intake. The Pope apparently has been having problems swallowing enough food to give his body the fuel that it needs. And in doing that, didn't they make a choice not to more permanently insert the tube through his stomach? And do you see any relation to what this current ailment, this spike in the fever, being attributed to a urinary tract infection?
No, Brian, there's no apparent relation, except, as we've been saying, that this is a man who's 84 years old and has a whole litany of medical problems. We've seen him fight time and time again. He obviously is somebody who's terribly strong in his will, but clearly his body is giving out in many ways. The reason he needed a feeding tube was because of Parkinson's disease had paralyzed the muscles in his throat, so he was not able to swallow sufficient amounts of food, so they had to get nutrients down through the feeding tube that goes through his nose into his stomach. That was something that could go on for about 3 weeks before it has to be removed. That carries a risk of infection itself by going in and out. He may be having other problems that have caused the urinary tract infection that we don't know about, such as an enlarged prostate or something like that, but that becomes pure speculation. We really don't know what's going on, other than that he is very sick and old, and both things in someone of his age, falling blood pressure and a very high fever, of course, are signs could be signs of severe danger, but they also could be things that resolve themselves because he's been through other crises before and has come back. We just have to stand by until we see more information.
Our own Bob Bazell with us here in New York. And Bob, I want to read what was just handed to me, the very latest on the Pope's health. This is the Reuters news service out of Vatican City. It says Pope John Paul is suffering from a very high fever caused by a urinary infection. The Vatican said in a statement on Thursday, it said the Pope was receiving, quote, appropriate antibiotic therapy. There is a suite of doctors' offices, medical facilities as part of the Pope's apartment complex overlooking St. Peter's Square. And with us on the phone right now is George Weigel, the papal biographer and NBC News Vatican consultant. And I suspect, George, knowing that the Vatican can be such an echo chamber of rumor, it's been widely reported already that media organizations were running down the most dire rumors last Wednesday, actually Monday of last week. We should talk about the Pope's Constitution.
This is a man who, Brian, in his most recent book, which is just being published in the United States this month, describes himself as having an extraordinarily strong constitution. And yet I think those of us who have seen the pictures as recently as yesterday, when he was valiantly up at the window of the apartment you just described, blessing pilgrims instead of being able to hold the usual general audience, that extraordinarily strong constitution is clearly weakening. There's something else, though, that I think we might want to just pause on a minute here. I mean, were this to be the final crisis of John Paul II, I think those who have known him, those who have revered him, would regard it as entirely appropriate that he go home to God during Easter week. This is a man who has taught the world about the connection of Good Friday and Easter for 26 years, and there seems something appropriate about this drama being played out at this time of the Christian year.
George Weigel, thank you. We'll be in further close touch with you, obviously. And just a few more details coming in. The Vatican saying here the medical situation is being, what they say, strictly controlled by the Vatican medical team taking care of the Pope. We'll keep an obvious close eye on this situation throughout the afternoon and evening. We will come on the air with any details, especially should the Pope be moved to seek hospital care. For now, that is what we know. Complete details tonight on NBC Nightly News on this NBC station, continuing coverage on MSNBC on cable. I'm Brian Williams, NBC News, New York.
I really do. I love her so much.